Live from the Business Radio X studio inside Renaissance Bank, the bank that specializes in understanding you. It's time for North Fulton Business Radio.
And hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of North Fulton Business Radio. I'm John Ray, and we are coming to you from the Business Radio X studio inside Renaissance Bank in beautiful Alpharetta. Folks, today you're more connected than ever, and whether it's your friends, your family, or your life, Renaissance understands how you bank, offering the mobile banking services that you need. Renaissance also knows that sometimes you need to speak to real people with real answers, and that's why Renaissance has more than 190 convenient locations throughout the South ready to serve you. For more information, go to renaissancebank.com. Renaissance Bank, understanding you, member FDIC. Folks, we got two great guests today. Charles Gridley. Charles is co-owner of Bridges Brewing, and Kathryn Woods with Confident Communications. Charles Gridley, we're going to start with you. Bridges Brewing, you're the co-owner with your son.
That's correct, John.
Yeah. So who's the boss? Is it you or your son?
Yes.
I love that. That's a great answer. Yeah. Since I've got my son on producing this show, we'll have to have a conversation about that later, right?
Indeed.
Yeah. But tell us about Bridges Brewing.
We're the first and only father-son brewery that's in the state of Georgia. We also are the first brewery that's in Johns Creek, Georgia. So we're very blessed to have that scenario for us.
That's exciting. Tell us a little bit about how you got started. I mean, what motivated you to get into this business? Because it's a fairly competitive landscape out there.
It is in around the state of Georgia, or actually in the city of Atlanta. However, the state of Georgia actually ranks in the lower 5 states as far as breweries per capita. So based on our analysis in the business plan, saw it as still as a good opportunity. And Johns Creek just jumped off the page saying that there's a viable market to farm there.
That's great. So you opened in December
of 2018.
2018. Tell us a little bit about your different beers and what your offerings are there.
Okay. Yeah. We're a craft beer brewery, so we make all the beers that we offer on site. And we like to joke this craft beer is beer that has actual taste. Back when I was a runner in the 90s, at the end of the race, there was a beer from a craft beer brewery. And being a runner, you consume alcohol to recarbonate. And then so I tasted it and said, beer actually has taste. So that was our introduction into craft beer.
Wow.
So we offer the gamut. There are over 20 different styles of beers, and our predominant ones are your IPAs, which are most popular, your stouts, sours, amongst them, a bunch of other beers.
Now, I noticed, Charles, that you've got your degree in chemical engineering. Your son was an avid home brewer. That sounds like quite a combination to get a brewery started, right?
As in many cases with fathers and sons, we're the same but different.
Right.
He's left-handed. I'm right-handed. I'm more the slow and steady wins the race. He's the more risk-taker and adventurous, but those complement us in our business approach.
So what do you find in terms of the different beers that you have? You've got IPAs, you've got stouts, porters, you've got different kinds of beer. So what are the ones that are the most popular that you offer?
The most popular ones, according to national studies and even local studies, are IPAs. That's what's driving the market right now. Also, the age group of millennials, as we call them, they're very adventurous. They like to try 4 or 5 different beers a month. So they're always asking, what's the latest that you have? They want to experience life to the fullest. And so understanding that market on a large scale, you know how to market your beers on a big scale. The key challenge is to learn your local market as to who's going to actually come to the brewery on a regular basis. And so that sometimes can be different.
Now, I know, Charles, regulations have changed in terms of how folks can experience local breweries, correct?
Correct.
Tell folks about that.
In 2017, there was a Senate Bill 85, which finally allowed breweries in the state of Georgia to be able to sell directly to the public. Prior to that, to experience or have an experience at a brewery, you had to buy a tour ticket. You got the tour, you saw the equipment, and then you got a rack of tastings, and then that was it. You had to go out into the street and find it in a package store. Today, now, people can come and enjoy the experience, drinking directly at the brewery, staying there as long as they choose. You can choose to eat or bring food. We are family friendly, so we have games for kids because they're usually the first ones that want to leave.
Sure.
We also have an offering for people that are not beer drinkers because they're the second ones to get the beer drinker to leave. So we try and make it a full experience to come and taste something fresh.
That sounds great. Charles Gridley, he's the co-owner of Bridges Brewing. He's with us today. Charles, I've got to ask about the name. So when I think Johns Creek, I don't think Bridges, right? When you think Bridges, you think something awfully big, but you've got an interesting historical connection with this name.
We do. When we made our pitch to the planning commission in the city, we were halfway through our pitch when they said, "Stop, we want you, please. What can we do to help you?" And so the first thing we asked is we would like to have that connection with the city. So we included them in our search for a name. In about 10 days, they came back with the word or the name Six Bridges. Initially, it came up with there are 6 roads in Johns Creek with the word bridge in it. So that opened the door for anybody that came in, name those 6 bridges.
Sure.
And that was difficult even for the locals that have lived there for many years. At the same time, we reached out to the Johns Creek Historical Society, and in the brewery, they painted a very lovely mural on the side of the wall as you walk in, so you get a view of what the Johns Creek area was 200 years ago, and it shows those 6 bridges with the original family names. Once it was also a Cherokee Indian nation, and so once they moved out, farmers moved into the area, they initially had ferries crossing the river, which then became bridges, and the bridges bore the names of those families. Hence, as I say, you get a historical perspective of what Johns Creek had to offer.
That's pretty cool. And it's really nice that you had that community welcome, right, and that partnership right from the very beginning.
Oh, quite well from the beginning. As we were doing our construction, we're very close to a residential area, and people would walk through the area and they would notice something's going on. And once they learned it was a brewery, they would actually come in and say, "How's my brewery coming along?" So
I love it.
So we had many residential owners right off the bat.
For sure. Yeah, the home values probably went up around where you're located, right?
Indeed, and people would say, "You are 1.1 miles from my front door. I could walk here and walk home and be very happy."
I love that. So you've been in business now for a little less than a year. Talk about the challenges of being in a startup and the challenges of particularly starting up a brewery, because the dynamics are a little bit different than you would have in maybe the typical startup.
With a startup, the brewery is very capital intensive, so a lot of money goes into the equipment, and you design or pick your equipment based on the market that you feel that you're going to be satisfying. We spend a lot of time talking to other breweries to get suggestions. We ask the question, what would you do different if you had to do it over again? And the brewery industry is a very friendly brotherhood, and so they're more than glad to tell you, I would do this instead of that. And so we incorporate a lot of those ideas into our design. Became rather capital intensive. The other key thing is as you're ramping up, you have to develop your market. So it also becomes critical. Cash is king. Always have cash to be able to carry yourself until you become cash positive. So those are the challenges. We're finding out that we tell the brewers 90% of the time you're a cleaning crew and 10% you actually make beer. And we're noticing, and my son and I were spending 90% is actually doing business things and nothing related to the brewery. But we still enjoy it. We both have that passion for beer, so we look forward to coming to work every day.
That's great. Now, get into a little bit, if you would, about maybe the the marketing aspects of starting a new business like this? Because obviously you're looking for numbers. I mean, you're looking to get the good word out about what you do. So besides coming on Business Radio X, which hopefully we can help you out with some of that, tell us a little bit about some of those challenges.
There are a number of good sources on a much larger scale as to what the market is. There's the National Brewers Association, which tells you on a national scale what the market is doing and even gives you hints in certain areas. There's also a statewide Brewers Guild, which has data that tells you what the Georgia market is. So we use that to find out how we want to market when we go out into the marketplace, into on-premise stores, restaurants, or off-premise, which is your package stores. So you know the demographics and the choices and the directions that's moving. As far as the brewery goes, you have to learn a different set of demographics and tastes and choices and preferences to attract people to come in. The older demographics would they stay closer and they tend not to go out and visit other breweries, whereas the younger group tends to, I want to go to 5 different breweries today.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. And I guess that explains why you mentioned that you get cooperation and help from other breweries, which is interesting. You don't see that in every industry, right? Yeah. So I guess what that says is folks in the industry understand that the customer wants to experience a lot of different breweries, and so it makes sense to cooperate, right?
It does indeed, and it's nice to even put what they call brewery tours together. So if there's a string of them together, there's brewery tours that will take you from A to B to C, and you want to be part of that experience. The Brotherhood wants you to succeed. It's a friendly competition. It says, I'll help you. At the end of the day, bring your best beer and put it next to mine, and we'll enjoy the competition.
Sure. Competition is a good thing when it helps everybody be better, right?
Indeed. We've turned around and paid it forward to other people that are coming into the business now, and we're helping them out, teaching them what we've learned to do and also teaching them what not to do.
Sure. Charles Gridley, he's with Six Bridges Brewing. So, Charles, talk a little bit about what the future holds. What do you see out there in terms of how you continue to grow and develop?
It's always a learning experience. We're finding out what marketing tools do and don't work, and we're exploiting the ones we do. We've established a good local base. We feel like we own our own backyard. The restaurants and the stores have embraced us as a local. We have a brewery in our backyard, and we're proud of that. And so now we're reaching out into the markets a little bit further away from the brewery, getting into those chain restaurants, looking into the grocery business as well, to expose ourselves, next to the guy that's brewing, 50 miles away or 10 miles away.
That's great. So I'm glad you brought that up in terms of where to find your beers. So obviously you can find it at your brewery. So if you can tell folks where that is, where that's located, and then the other maybe retail operations, restaurants, what have you, that they can find your beer right now. Let's give them a shout out, right?
Indeed. We're located on Lakefield Drive. We're in the Johns Creek Office and Industrial Park. Johns Creek Parkway crosses Medlock Bridge Road and McGinnis Ferry, and so we're in that corner right there. As far as finding our beers, we're in most package stores. We work with a statewide distributor, so they have access to all those package stores. We go and visit and generate demand at those stores. We're getting into local restaurants, again, having tastings there, getting the patrons to try our beer. That's the key part. Here's something, try it. If you like it, then you can enjoy it further, and then on your way home, go to the package store and take it home.
Well, I've been to your brewery. It's really nice, and I encourage folks to get out there and check it out. So, Charles, for those, and the beer is terrific, so I need to make sure I say that, right? So, Charles, for those that would like more information, would like to be in touch, would like maybe to get you to come to their restaurant or their local package store, how do they get in touch with you?
The best places to go are our website, which is Six Bridges Brewing. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. All those key social media outlets that work best. Again, come by the brewery. We have a tasting room that holds 125 people. We have a nice shaded outdoor beer garden for the people that want to commune with nature. It's just a great place to just relax.
Charles Gridley, he's the co-owner with his son Clay of Bridges Brewing. Charles, thanks for being with us.
Glad to have the opportunity.
Absolutely. Folks, if you need help curing the headaches of administrative tasks or bookkeeping or marketing, need a presentation prepared, well, go engage a smart and reliable office angel. They're not a tip agency or a placement firm. Office Angels matches your business support needs with angels who have the talent and experience necessary to help you maintain and grow your business on an ongoing or as-needed basis. Your terms, your timeline. They lend a hand when needed and fly off when the job is done. Find out more at officeangels.us or call Chief Executive Angel, Essie Escobedo. She's terrific, by the way, at 770-442-9246. And now we turn to Kathryn Woods. Kathryn is with Confident Communications. Kathryn, I'm looking to get confident in my communications. Are you going to help me?
I can do that.
Okay, great. Tell us a little bit about you, what you do.
Well, I'm a communication coach and voice trainer. I am a recovering shy person. I was a painfully shy child. I didn't want to look at people I didn't know, much less actually speak to them. So I'm proof that this works. I was kind of the odd kid that read self-help books to pull myself out of shyness and one little bit at a time, just come outside my comfort zone. So definitely, if you are looking to speak professionally, learn to lead meetings, I can help you with that. I help entrepreneurs and executives learn to use their voice so that they can get their message across clearly and confidently and have more impact in the world.
Wow, there's a lot there, Kathryn. So let's unpack a little bit of that. Maybe you can talk about the before piece of this. We'll talk about the after. Let's talk about the before and how a lack of confidence impacts your communications, your speaking skills.
Well, first of all, when we lack confidence, we just don't put ourselves out there to communicate to begin with. You hold back, you don't say what's on your mind, you don't put anything forth, and therefore you get very little back. And really, by just coming out of your comfort zone, I believe tremendously in the power of making one small shift at a time in how you communicate. You can't all of a sudden incorporate 4 or 5 different tools and techniques that I teach at once to transform overnight. It's about shifting your habits one little thing at a time. And so for me, it was first making eye contact, saying hello to people I didn't feel comfortable with. And then, gosh, by the time I was in college, I actually spoke to a large group of the university's biggest alumni donors at their annual kind of Thanksgiving and donor party and talked about what the impact of the school was on me. So by the time I had gotten to college, I was pretty much over my fear of public speaking, but I was terrified of it probably up until I was about 13, 14 years old.
Wow. So what was it? Was there any one thing that snapped you out of that, or what was it? I mean, because what part of what you're talking about here is being maybe an introvert. I don't know if you can see yourself as an introvert, but part of it is that, right?
I think I was a shy extrovert.
Oh, really?
I don't really identify as an introvert.
Now that seems like a contradiction in terms.
So
explain more.
What I've been told is that introverts are people that sort of recharge their batteries by being alone.
Right.
Whereas extroverts recharge their batteries being with others. I very much like being around other people, but I was shy and I lacked confidence to put forth what I had to say.
Gotcha. So talk a little bit about what you learned in your own life, how you employ that to kind of pull people out.
Well, one of the biggest things is to get in touch with whatever it is that makes you great. What are you passionate about? What do you want to put forward in the world as your message. Because when you have a message and you're really clearly in touch with what you want to do in the world, then you'll do what it takes to make an impact. But if you want to get into the more technical side of it, and I can talk about the technical side of it because I was a speech pathologist for over 20 years.
Oh, wow.
I don't do speech therapy now. I'm very careful to tell my clients that's not what we're doing. But it's communication coaching and voice training based on a lot of principles that I learned. So the number one foundational thing, whether you're coming to me to learn to sort of refine your speaking voice or learn how to maintain a healthy voice, or whether it's for confidence, is that you have to address your breathing patterns and be sure that your breath support is adequate for your voice. Because if it's not, you're going to find yourself running out of breath, trying to rush to get to the next sentence. You're going to strain your voice trying to push that last little bit out. And also, it makes you sound and feel more nervous because you're literally in a state of mild physical anxiety when you're not getting enough breath.
Something like that, right?
Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't resist that.
I know.
Kathryn, you're pulling it out on me. Kathryn Woods, Confident Communications. Now, Kathryn, folks don't like the sound of their own voice. I get that all the time from folks that have been on this show, and they say, I did a terrible job. I don't like the sound of my own voice. What would you say to them?
I would say you have to learn to make friends with your voice. And what I mean by that is, first of all, it helps to get used to the sound of your own voice. Don't be afraid to listen to it on a brief recording and then try to tweak something. I realize it's a little difficult if you've never had any communication or voice coaching to know how to tweak something, but that's how I transformed my voice. I didn't like my voice either. My voice today doesn't sound like what it sounded like 5 years ago. And I did that by getting control of my breathing patterns, making sure I had breath to support my voice, learning what my proper vocal pitch was versus the pitch I used as a habit. Because there's a distinction there for a lot of people. And by listening to your voice and employing a strategy where you learn one little tool or technique that you incorporate at a time. Like I said before, one shift at a time. So addressing your breathing always comes first. Addressing the rate of your speaking comes second. Finding your ideal pitch. You can do all these things, and if you're willing to listen to your voice and listen to how it sounds when you play with it, you can transform your voice and still sound like yourself. So,
Kathryn, what do you say to the person out there that says, look, I'm not a professional speaker. I've got what I've got, what God gave me in terms of my voice. What's the bottom line here for what you can do to improve my voice, and how does that really impact my day-to-day impact on the work world?
Right. Well, most of us aren't professional speakers in the sense that that's traditionally thought of. But if you use your voice throughout the day to sell, to persuade, to educate, you're a professional speaker. Make no mistake. And people are listening, and you can either amplify the impact that you have with your voice, or you can diminish the impact. And so increasing your communication and vocal capabilities is critical to anyone in any profession that speaks to anyone.
You convinced me. I believe it. Now, I'm interested, though, in the mistakes that you see out there, the mistakes that you see folks make, whether they're speakers or not, just day-to-day communication.
Right. So I touched on this a minute ago, but one of the biggest things is not catching your breath when you speak and trying to force that last little bit of voice out and then finding yourself run out of breath. Well, your listeners notice that. They notice you're rushing. And even if you're an expert in your field and you're completely competent, you can undermine the opinion that others have of your expertise by sounding nervous, because they assume not necessarily that you doubt how you speak, but that you doubt what you're saying and you doubt your own worth in what you're doing. The second thing I would say, and this goes hand in hand, is using a rate that is too fast, not pausing to let your listeners absorb the ideas. Anytime you're transitioning from one sentence to the next or one phrase to the next, that's an opportunity for you to pause, catch your breath, and let your listeners process what you're saying. And there's no one right rate of speech, but my rule of thumb is the more technical or emotional or unfamiliar your topic, the more your listeners need time to process that. And if you don't give them that time, you'll start to lose their attention. Have you ever been in a speech where people are looking around like, what'd he just say? What'd she just say? I can't keep up. And then after a while, you just sort of shrug your shoulders and start checking Facebook on your phone, right?
Right.
The last thing, and I get a lot of traction on this whenever I bring it up, is the use of filler words like, like, and this comes when you're not addressing the other two issues, which are controlling your rate of speech and breathing. Because when your brain can't keep up with your mouth, you start to put meaningless words in there like and to fill space. That's why they're filler words. The problem is they diminish the impact of your message because they're just extraneous sounds in there that you don't need to make your point.
So my listeners are taking up a collection right now to send in to you to have me hire you, but
okay.
That's probably what's going on out there right now. But no, seriously, I want to talk a little bit about how you work with folks. So somebody's interested in what you've got to offer. How does an engagement work with you?
So I do private, customized one-on-one coaching programs that last 3 months, and they're done over Zoom, so you don't have to leave the comfort of your home.
Oh, cool.
So I have worked with clients as far away as Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, wow.
And technically could work with anyone anywhere in the world. And it works really effectively that way. And we do 45-minute to 1 hour sessions, and it's 7 to 8 sessions. And the reason I say 7 or 8 is I'm retooling some things now. It was 7. It's going to be 8, but it's on my website as 7. And we dive into the most critical communication issues that client is facing. So it is customized. However, we always make sure that we've addressed the breathing and the rate of speech first, because everything else builds on that.
That's great. Kathryn Woods, she is the owner and founder of Corporate Communications, and she's a communications coach and voice trainer. So, Kathryn, this has been great. For those that would like more information, would like to be in touch with you, tell them how to do that.
Okay. It's confident communications, not corporate communications.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just didn't want someone to not be able to find it.
Confident communications.
Right.
I'm not confident in my communications today. Sorry about that.
I don't think that's true. So my website is confidentcommunications with an S, .net, not .com.
Okay. And
if you want to reach out to me by phone, my number is 404-234-8829. And you can email me at Kathryn, Kathryn, at confidentcommunications.net.
And just to be clear, you also work with folks that want to be professional speakers as well,
yes.
Right?
Anyone that wants to amplify their impact by amplifying their voice.
Cool. Kathryn Woods, she's with Confident Communications right here in the Metro Atlanta area. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, John.
It's a pleasure. So, folks, just a reminder, you can listen to this show every Tuesday, and we also have special shows from time to time. And if you miss any of our live shows, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, Overcast, YouTube. Really your favorite podcast app. We're pretty much out there, if you will. And we're also online at northfultonbusinessradio.com. Check out our archives. We've got almost 170 shows, about 400 guests that we've had over the last 3.5 years that we've had this show. And we are the voice of business in North Fulton. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, North Fulton BRX. We're on all those platforms as well. So for our guests, Charles Gridley and Kathryn Woods, I'm John Ray. Join us next time here on North Fulton Business Radio.
Today, you're connected more than ever. Your friends, your family, your life. And banking is what you do on your time, anywhere you like. Renaissance understands how you bank, offering mobile banking services you need. At Renaissance, we also understand that sometimes you need to speak to real people with real answers. That's why Renaissance has more than 170 convenient locations throughout the South ready to serve you. Renaissance Bank, understanding you. Member FDIC.